Did you know Bobcat's most famous machine started as a fix for a turkey farmer's manure problem? Two brothers. A stinking barn, a three-wheeled invention nobody asked for. That invention grew into a multi-billion-dollar empire. Then, just as fast, it started losing altitude. Here's how a machine built to clean chicken poop ended up reshaping construction worldwide, and why its story isn't as simple as rags to riches. This story starts with two brothers, Cyril and Louis Keller. They grew up in small-town Minnesota in a farming family that didn't have much. Long hours, bad weather, that was just life out there. Louis was the tinkerer, always taking machines apart to see how they worked, then putting them back together better. Cyril had a different gift. He understood people, sales, and business. Together, they ran a small welding shop, fixing tractors and equipment for local farmers who couldn't afford anything fancier. In 1956, a turkey farmer named Eddie Velo shows up with a strange request. His barn has 2 floors. The upper floor is packed with turkeys, and it needs regular cleaning, but no machine on the market is small enough to get up there and maneuver around the support posts. Regular tractors are too wide. Everything else is too heavy for the floor to hold. The Kellers take the job anyway. That decision is about to change everything, not just for them, but for entire industries that don't even exist yet. Within months, they build something completely new. A compact, 3-wheeled loader that can spin a full 360 degrees within its own footprint. Here's why that matters. Most loaders at the time needed a wide turning radius, like a car. This one could practically pivot in place. It's not pretty to look at, but it works exactly as needed. Word spreads fast. Other farmers hear about the Keller loader and start lining up for one. But there's a problem. The Kellers are 2 guys with a welding shop, not a factory. They don't have the money or the equipment to mass produce anything. That's where Melrose Manufacturing steps in. Founded a decade earlier by E.G. Melrose in Gwinner, North Dakota, the company is now run by his sons, who see real commercial potential in this odd little loader. In 1958, Melrose buys the manufacturing rights and puts the design into production as the M60. The Kellers get a royalty on every unit sold, plus jobs at Melrose to keep refining their own invention. The M60 is just the starting point. In 1959, Melrose introduces the M200, same basic mechanics, but with a straighter, easier to build boom arm and a new red and yellow paint scheme aimed at the farm equipment market. Then, in 1960, Louis Keller tries something the engineers around him insist won't work. He bolts a second axle onto the design, turning it into a 4-wheeled machine. The concern was simple. With 4 wheels instead of 3, would it still be able to skid and pivot the way the original could? Louis builds it anyway. At first, it doesn't turn properly. Turns out a variable speed pulley isn't engaging the way it should. Once that gets fixed, the machine spins in place exactly like its 3-wheeled predecessor, except now it's steadier, stronger, and able to work on rougher ground. That moment, that fix, produces the first true 4-wheel skid-steer loader in history. This one mechanical idea, steering by making the wheels skid instead of turning them, unlocks entire new markets. Farmers use it, landscapers use it, and soon, construction crews realize this small machine can squeeze into job sites that full-size loaders simply can't reach. But the machine still doesn't have a real name yet. That changes in 1962, and the story behind it starts with a cardboard box in the employee break room. Melrose tells its workers, submit a name idea, and if yours gets picked, you win a color television. Out of all the submissions, one keeps coming up, Bobcat. A marketing consultant looks the animal up in the dictionary and finds it described as tough, quick, and agile. 3 words that fit the machine perfectly. The loader gets painted white, the name sticks, and the Bobcat brand is officially born. Through the early 1970s, Bobcat expands into Canada, then into Europe, where narrow city streets and cramped job sites make a compact loader look less like a novelty and more like a necessity. Competition from established European manufacturers is fierce, and shipping machinery across borders comes with real regulatory headaches. Bobcat pushes through it anyway. In 1969, Clark Equipment Company buys Melrose parent business, giving Bobcat access to serious research money and manufacturing capacity it never had before. Under Clark, the innovation doesn't slow down. In 1972, the company patents the Bobcat system, a lever-based mechanism that lets operators swap attachments in seconds instead of hammering pins in and out by hand. That single innovation earns the skid steer a lasting nickname, the Swiss Army knife of construction equipment, because one machine can now handle dozens of different jobs. Through the 1980s, Bobcat leans hard into that idea, rolling out augers, trenchers, snowblowers, and hydraulic breakers. By the end of the decade, the company reportedly offers more than 30 different attachments. The payoff shows up directly in the balance sheet. By the early 1990s, attachment sales reportedly make up close to a fifth of total company revenue. One machine, endless configurations. That's the formula that turns Bobcat from a regional product into a global standard. Through the late 90s and into the 2000s, the company pushes deeper into Asia and South America, chasing the same growth pattern that worked in Europe decades earlier. In April 2007, Bobcat opens a manufacturing plant in Suzhou, China, giving it real production capacity in one of the world's fastest-growing construction markets. That same year, ownership changes hands again. Ingersoll Rand, which had owned Bobcat since 1995, agrees to sell the entire business to South Korea's Doosan Group for $4.9 billion, one of the largest acquisitions of an American manufacturer by a South Korean company at that point in history. There's genuine anxiety around the deal. Would American jobs survive the transition? Would the Bobcat name mean the same thing under a foreign parent company? Doosan makes its case directly. Keep manufacturing where you already manufacture. Keep the name. Keep the culture intact. Largely, that promise holds up. With Doosan's financial backing, Bobcat invests heavily in better hydraulics, better fuel efficiency, and more comfortable operator cabs. Doosan's existing distribution network across Asia also gives Bobcat a fast track into markets it had been chasing on its own for years. Through the 2010s, two new pressures shape the company's direction: environmental regulation and digital expectations. Lower emission engines, electric loader prototypes, GPS tracking, and remote diagnostics that let an operator troubleshoot a machine from their phone instead of waiting for a technician. The invention built to clean a turkey barn is now a connected, data-driven piece of equipment. By the mid-2010s, Bobcat is selling in over 100 countries, generating billions in annual revenue and employing thousands of people worldwide. This is the peak. Here's the part nobody puts in the brochure. In 2024, Doosan Bobcat's annual revenue drops to roughly $6.3 billion, down 16% from the year before. Operating profit falls even harder, down close to 40%. It's not a company falling apart. It's a market correcting hard after a pandemic. Kira construction boom that pulled years of future demand into just a couple of years. But the drop still shows up everywhere, including on the stock ticker. As of early 2025, Doosan Bobcat's market capitalization sits around $3.3 billion. It's worth comparing that number to the 2007 purchase price of $4.9 billion, paid nearly 2 decades earlier. These aren't identical measurements, one's acquisition price, the other's today's public market value, but the gap between them still says something. The empire that once felt unstoppable is now valued below what it cost to buy in the first place, and that's the real twist buried in Bobcat's story. The company isn't gone. It isn't a failure. It's still one of the most trusted names in compact equipment anywhere on Earth. But the machine that spent 7 decades only knowing how to climb is now learning, the hard way, what it feels like to come back down. If corporate buyouts and foreign acquisitions are your thing, check out our video on how Chrysler ended up owned by 3 different companies in 30 years. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, empires built by accident, and what happens when growth finally stops.